Hi, I'm Alexis, 33 years old, and I've recently come through a very difficult chapter of my life. Today, I'm here to share my journey. It all started with my ex-husband, Russell, and his mother, Lori. Russell and I met in college, and our connection was instant. It wasn't long before we were deeply in love, and after 5.5 years, we got married. Despite the strength of our bond, one person always loomed over us, my mother-in-law, Lori. From the very first moment I met her, Lori made it clear she didn't approve of me. She would constantly criticize me, picking at my insecurities, especially about my appearance. Still, I held on to the belief that Russell loved me for who I truly was, and that gave me some comfort. 3 years into our marriage, I made a bold decision. I quit my job and teamed up with my best friend to start a business. Russell supported me, and though it was slow at first, the business grew steadily. Eventually, it became very successful, allowing us to live comfortably. But despite that success, Lori's disdain never softened. She belittled my achievements and even accused me of sabotaging Russell. Her cruel words strained our marriage, especially since Russell never stood up for me during her attacks. His silence felt like a betrayal, leading to more and more arguments between us. Then, things took a darker turn. One day, I found text messages on Russell's phone that shattered me. Lori had been trying to set him up with other women, bad-mouthing me the entire time. At first, Russell had brushed off her attempts, but eventually, I saw messages where he began to show interest in the women she was suggesting. My heart broke. It felt like everything I believed about our relationship was unraveling. Determined to confront him, I planned to have a serious talk with Russell after work the next day. But life took a sudden, unexpected twist. On my way to work, something happened. The next thing I remember is waking up in a hospital, surrounded by machines and nurses. My head was throbbing, and I was overcome by an intense thirst. Weak and disoriented, I asked for water, trying to piece together what had happened. After drinking, I attempted to sleep again, hoping rest would ease the pain in my head. As I tried to shift my legs for some comfort, shock washed over me when I realized they wouldn't move. Confusion quickly morphed into panic. Desperately, I called out for a nurse, explaining that I couldn't feel my legs. The nurse sprang into action, alerting the doctor, who conducted a series of tests to evaluate my sensations. It was during this tense moment that Russell walked into the room, his concern evident as he tried to grasp the situation. After further examination, the doctor delivered the shattering news: I was paralyzed. Russell left the room, likely consumed by his own worry and sorrow. Left alone, I grappled with this life-altering reality. The doctor, noticing my distress, advised me to rest and reassured me that, despite my protests about the impossibility of sleeping amidst the chaos in my mind, the medication would help. He explained that while my spinal injury was severe, there was still a chance for recovery. This glimmer of hope was overshadowed by the understanding that progress would be slow and demand immense effort. The news was overwhelming, but it also sparked a faint hope amidst the despair. Acknowledging the daunting path ahead, I resolved to fight against my paralysis. The doctor stressed the importance of nutrition and rest for my recovery, especially to heal other injuries from the accident. This conversation offered a sliver of optimism. The notion that my condition might not be permanent fueled my determination to persevere. Shortly after the doctor left, the nurses filled me in on the accident's details. I had been struck by another vehicle at an intersection, leading to a serious crash that caused significant injuries, including spinal cord damage, a broken collarbone, and facial bruises. I was taken aback to learn I had been in a coma for 2 weeks. The revelation that a driver under the influence had caused the accident, and that he had been apprehended, left me with mixed emotions. Anger and frustration surged at first, but the knowledge that justice was being served brought some comfort. After eating and taking the medication, which was indeed strong, Just as the doctor had warned, I quickly drifted into a deep sleep. When I awoke the next day, the room was quiet except for the soft hum of medical equipment. That's when I noticed my mom, dozing in a chair. My attempt to wake her startled her, and as she came to my side, the mixture of concern, relief, and love on her face was overwhelming. Our reunion was deeply emotional, filled with tears and tender gestures that spoke volumes about the fear and relief we both felt. Having my mother there provided immense comfort, reinforcing the support system I had in my fight for recovery. A blend of guilt and gratitude washed over me as I recognized how fortunate I was to still be here, navigating the aftermath of my ordeal. I grasped my mom's hand and, flipping the script, checked on her well-being, which earned me a tender smile and the kind of reassurance only a mother could give. She prioritized my pain over her own, expressing relief that the medication was sparing me from the worst of it. Yet, I could hear the concern for my safety and future in her voice. Despite her efforts to remain strong, her vulnerability struck a chord within me. I tried to reassure my mom that I would be cautious, hoping to ease her worries. Yet, as she reflected on the unfairness of my situation, it became clear how random life's challenges could be. Our conversation turned to my recovery. Despite the uncertainty, we clung to hope. My mother's unwavering support, no matter the outcome, served as a beacon of strength. However, when Russell's name came up, a shadow fell over our connection. His absence since the accident, especially after I learned about my paralysis, created a painful void. My mom, equally puzzled and concerned, insisted she would reach out to him, her protective instincts kicking in. As sleep began to take me again, I was overwhelmed by feelings of loss and betrayal regarding Russell's absence. The brief moment we shared before the diagnosis, followed by his sudden disappearance, left me questioning his commitment and support when I needed him most. When I woke up, the first thing I noticed was my mom, engaged in a heated phone conversation. Her words were sharp and insistent, a clear indication of her determination. My head throbbed as the effects of the medication wore off, leaving me to face the pain head-on. I quickly called for a nurse, who administered the necessary medication to help ease my discomfort. Once the pain began to subside, my curiosity got the better of me, and I asked about the subject of my mother's heated conversation. At first, my mom brushed off my concern, but I could tell she was deeply unsettled. After some gentle prodding, she revealed that she had been arguing with Russell, who had been spending time away with friends. The realization that he had barely visited me during my coma added a layer of hurt that cut deeper than my physical injuries. My mother had lost her patience with him, chastising him for his dismissive attitude towards my accident. She had given him an ultimatum to visit within the hour, a move that felt both embarrassing and necessary. When Russell finally arrived, he brought Lori with him, which only heightened my discomfort. The weight of his absence was already heavy, and the last thing I wanted was to deal with her. Sensing the tension, my mom excused herself to give us some privacy. Confronting Russell about his neglect, I was met with cold indifference from Lori, who suggested that my condition made me a burden to him. She even admitted that Russell had considered staying by my side until she convinced him otherwise, using our past struggles and my current inability to contribute financially as justifications for their callousness. This revelation hit me hard, underscoring the fragility of our relationship and the stark reality of my new circumstances. During our conversation, Russell made it painfully clear that my paralysis had shifted his commitment to our vows of mutual support through sickness and health. His blunt admission, heavily influenced by Lori's harsh perspective, left me reeling. Lori didn't hesitate to voice her belief that Russell deserved better, reducing my worth to my now threatened business success. Their readiness to abandon me in my time of need was a profound betrayal. Russell announced his intention to file for divorce, and Lori gleefully started planning a date for him immediately afterward. As they left, I was left to grapple with the crushing reality of their abandonment. Just then, My mom returned. Her presence provided a small comfort as I recounted the devastating exchange. Fury radiated from her, a testament to her love for me. Though she couldn't confront them in that moment, she stayed by my side, a pillar of strength, as I cried until sleep mercifully claimed me. The arrival of the divorce papers the next day felt like an inevitable formality. As I signed them, I was struck by Lori's triumphant expression and Russell's apparent relief, a painful reminder of the cruelty of being abandoned by someone I thought loved me, especially during such a vulnerable time. The weeks that followed plunged me into darkness, marked by a deep depression. It felt as though a vital part of me had been stripped away, leaving my world devoid of color. Yet throughout this time, my mom remained my silent stronghold, offering comfort through my favorite meals and fresh flowers, her actions a quiet testament to her unwavering support. Her presence helped me face each day as I began to navigate my new reality, starting with healing my physical injuries and bracing for the challenges ahead. After my diagnosis and the subsequent abandonment by Russell, I was cleared to begin physical therapy and start a regimen of medications aimed at managing my paralysis. A skilled physical therapist was recommended, and my sessions were set to begin in a week. Truthfully, my initial reaction was one of defeat. All I wanted was to stay in bed, succumbing to my sorrow. This mindset led me to miss my first couple of therapy appointments, a clear sign of my despair. However, my mom reached her limit with my despondency. She confronted me, expressing her frustration with my continued moping. Despite my protests that I felt utterly defeated, she insisted I had the power to change my circumstances, at least to some extent. She challenged my passivity, arguing that even a small step forward was better than remaining stagnant. Her suggestion that I could reclaim some control over my life, perhaps even find a way to prove Russell and Lori wrong, resonated with me. She reminded me that while my physical abilities were compromised, my intellect and spirit remained intact, urging me to harness them. Taking her advice to heart, I reluctantly agreed to start working from home, partly to appease her and partly to escape her persistent encouragement. To my surprise, this decision marked a turning point. I resumed my role in my business, thanks in large part to my business partner and best friend, who had kept things afloat during my absence. Her visits, though infrequent due to the demands of our work, served as a reminder of the life that awaited me outside my self-imposed isolation. This small shift toward action became the first step in a long journey of recovery and self-reclamation. With my mother's unwavering support and the realization that surrendering to despair wouldn't erase the hurt but could deepen it, I began to return to work, lightening the burden on my business partner. Our team welcomed me back with open arms, expressing both concern and relief at my renewed involvement. I reassured them of my well-being and found myself quickly immersed in the rhythm of work. Much to my mom's delight, this positive shift mirrored my growing commitment to physical therapy. I attended physical therapy 4 times a week. Although I faced initial embarrassment and struggled with the exercises, I was determined to persevere. The catalyst for my renewed sense of purpose came unexpectedly from a Facebook post by Russell announcing his remarriage. The post, laced with thinly veiled insults about our past, ignited a fierce resolve within me, not only to recover but to excel beyond my previous achievements. This surge of anger transformed into a powerful motivator, propelling my dedication over the next 5 years. The journey was arduous, with the first 3 years focused on regaining my ability to walk, a milestone I eventually achieved with the aid of a cane. The following 2 years were devoted to revitalizing my business, driving it to significant success and recognition, a testament to my hard work and determination. However, true satisfaction eluded me until an unexpected opportunity for retribution presented itself. Russell's company was floundering, and in a twist of fate, my company was positioned to propose a merger, one that would place us in a dominant position. We moved forward with the merger under terms that favored us, granting us considerable control. The moment I walked into Russell's company for the first meeting post-merger, cane in hand but standing tall, The shock on his face felt like a silent victory. All those years of struggle, the pain of betrayal, and relentless hard work had led to this moment, marking not just a personal triumph but also the beginning of a new chapter in my professional life, where past grievances could finally be laid to rest. Striding confidently into the room, my heels clicking with each step, I made my entrance as the embodiment of my recovery, a stark contrast to the image Russell had of me during my lowest moments. Announcing my role as the new CEO, I outlined the upcoming organizational changes, hinting at a leaner team structure. While the implications were broad, the message was unmistakably clear, especially to Russell, who was the prime candidate for dismissal. After the meeting, Russell confronted me, unable to contain his shock and confusion. His disbelief at my recovery, framed by accusations of deceit, was met with my calm clarification that his absence had left him uninformed about my potential for recovery, a potential that had fully materialized. I dismissed his suggestion that revenge motivated me, countering that my ambition and efforts extended far beyond any desire for petty retribution. His plea for professionalism revealed a personal development. He was expecting a child. This realization brought me to a new understanding. This moment wasn't about reviving old grievances. It was about moving forward. I was asserting my strength and independence in the face of adversity, demonstrating that my success and recovery were not tethered to the past but were stepping stones to a future I was building on my own terms. As Russell pleaded for his job, invoking a need for stability with his impending parenthood, he echoed the very words he once used to belittle our relationship. Yet, the irony of his appeal did nothing to sway my decision. I informed him that his termination letter was already prepared, marking the end of his tenure. His reaction, a mix of shock and indignation, mirrored the abandonment I had felt in my time of need. Leaving him to grapple with the consequences of his actions, I experienced a surge of empowerment, a stark contrast to the vulnerability I once endured. Later that day, Lori's attempts to vilify me through calls and messages only reinforced my conviction. Her insults were met with reminders of her role in the unraveling of my marriage and my well-being. While the exchange was bitter, it underscored the transformation I had undergone, from a position of helplessness to one of strength and resolve. The sweetness of this victory lay not just in the retribution but in the affirmation of my resilience. The support and encouragement I had received during my lowest moments were instrumental in this journey. This experience taught me a valuable lesson. From the depths of despair, the only direction left is upward. With each step forward, I moved away from the shadows of my past, embarking on a path defined by my strength, determination, and newfound independence.